All right, y'all, we did it. We hit 4K.
Hooray!
So shout out my community. That's awesome. Speaking of, if you guys like this whole tutorial, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be breaking down this whole drop for you guys. It sounds like this. Sorry, I had a bad case of the zoomies. Okay, let's get into it. First, we're just going to start from the drums because, you know, dubstep. Very, very simple. We're just using kick. Sounds like this. And then we have a clap that I just layered a few claps together. Sounds like this. Soft clipping them individually. We have a couple of rides in the fake out. And then it kind of follows this like big crash by ride. We also have a couple others that come in the B section with the kind of gun area. So all together, our drums sound like this. Cool. Our B section, I kind of want to do more like off-grid stuff. So kick's going to be coming in more often. Kicks. So just kind of making it a little more like trappy. I'm just keeping it fresh. In the next section, since the next A and B section is like my original, just slightly changed up, it just adds a little more variety and makes things fresh. So let's get to the good stuff I know you guys want. And that's the effects, not the basses. So really quickly, just really quick white noise. And that just goes into the first hit. Now, as far as drop effects go, we have a few other things. This is getting track space, so it's not as loud in context, but it's a lot of just push, pull, duh, duh, duh. Honestly, one thing I've been really enjoying for my effects is taking some sort of, we'll just go, wow, this is a lot more than I thought it would. We'll just take this real quick and we'll turn all this off. This is one of my claps, I guess. It's being low cut, so we can't really hear the transient, and it's being sidechained. So, right now, if we add a vocoder, it makes it just like crowd noise without reverb. Turn off vocoder. It gets a nice back. Also just have without the vocoder. That's actually pretty hilarious. That's really it for our drop effects. Not really changing anything here, just adding more background noise to our basses. We have a vocal which is going through like a space rack. It's just a lot of reverb, parallels, EQing, and my and Truthless vocal pack. It's actually not adding too much, but you can get this whole dubstep vocal rack. I'll link it above. There's also a free version, not of the rack, but we also put out a vocal sample pack. I think the paid one has like 50 and the free one has like 10. You know, it'll link up here. So we have that comes in. Let's get into the actual basses here. This first one is my main bass that I have in my original section. It sounds like this. So I just cut it up differently because if you've seen like my Serum tip video, I'll find it for you. It'll be linked. But if you cut up MIDI in a certain way, you can get really cool transients, which I got this. And all that is, you know it, some sort of fake out rack. And I'm just using this one that's resin, and that's what creates it. Without it, sounds like this. With it, have some backing of it, just adding more small room. Comb filter disperser, just adding a little bit difference of sound. Another layer with more chorus. We have this Green Room Company Rider bass. What's that sound like on its own? Let's find it. Sounds like this. And I just kind of played with it, cut it up how I wanted to. The format's probably doing a lot. Yeah. And then my sub, which is taking up a massive amount in the mix. Really big thing to talk about when you're doing subs and you're overly distorting them is the second and third harmonic get extremely harsh. And let me show you without it. This guy right here. When you have that second harmonic super high, it actually kind of makes your sub sound atonal. So that verse, this sounds actually more tonal. It sounds in key. You'll hear it in context. Actually, I'll just play it in context. That it just sounds muddy and not as good. So without the EQs, this is what it sounds like when it comes in. Verse this. Just sounds way more powerful. So if you're gonna overly distort your sub, make sure you tame that stuff. And obviously I rolled off a little bit of the highs and made it mono. So all this really is just this main bass duplicated, screen room, and the sub plus this guy that you can barely hear. It's just support bass. More space. Can't really hear it over anything. Like I said, it's more of a support. Then we have always going into the B section. I'm starting on the... I'm starting on the 4 and it's going till the next 3. And it's just another company fill that I played with, cut up, chopped. I have one of Nasco's sine charge, kind of. You know what we should do? Not have that have low end, guys. Hey brother, I'm recording a tutorial. Let me call you back in like 10 minutes, okay?
Oh, David. Okay.
Alright, sorry. Bye. Better. So we have the transition, turnaround, whatever you want to call it, going into this gunshot, which I use the fake out rack again, takes away the lows. Without it, wait, with the fake out rack, sounds like that. Very. And this is one of my favorite B sections I've made. So I'm using a Nasco Neuro bass shot. This is in one of his packs on Patreon, but I'm kind of making my own, adding some shifting, once again, cutting out that muddy area, disperser kind of, and adding a little small room, which adds quite a bit. Very dry with this. Big fan of small room. That's one layer. And we have this one shot. It's just a sine that is being FM'd and then is just being downsampled. That's all that's really happening there. And adding some sort of hiss on it. I also have these guys in the back. And then the main guys here. So we have this guy, this, and those are our chugs. Now in this section, find it, this is becoming our sub. I don't have my tarot, I have a very transient sub with the guns. Another nice thing about the drop is we're going from a long, like, half note sub to then a very staccato based. Before we continue, let me show you how I made this bass, which I call Whey Rada. It's one of my favorites to use now. I made it in another drop, which I will find it. I pretty much just took it and just did basic stuff to it. Distortion, combs, compressing, adding attack. I did that and created this. Did a little more printout, and the main one came out like this. So let me take this off real quick. And I'm just pitching it up to get the different tonality here. But then I'm just adding OTT. Small room, because small room does a lot. Once again, I love small room. No sub shifter rack, adding a little more chorus in the pitch here. And I guess I'm just chorusing it, so it's probably wide. And I'm just making a few different layers. I printed that as a resonator. Another one with a different type of resonator. And a disperser comb one. All of those together create the main sound, because then they are going to be OTT'd, utility pulled in quite a bit without it being pulled in. They're quite wide. So that's how I'm taming that. And we have a little bit of throwing, which I don't even think that affects the drop we're talking about. Or it does, I lied. And I'm just kind of creating my own rhythm here of just different quarter notes, a little bit eighth notes on some of the layers. Like that, and that's how you get pretty much the B section. It's just some Whey that I just fattened up. And once again, fake out filter on the 3, the what on its own right here. Now, instead of just having our original call here, we're having this B section. Hey, this is where I originally... this is where I originally got it. I think I just played with this one even more. Convolver's pretty cool. I'll be talking about Convolver in a future video, but it's just like a really good hybrid reverb. And those layers are coming together with the massive sub again. We're getting rid of the sustain during this part. And we're doing the different style or different cut of the Whey. And then we're having this come back in. This time without the fake out filter, I just have the basses without any low end. And we have this high boy come back in. As you see, the sustain is extremely mono because there's so much width in this drop. So it doesn't compete with anything else. Just have some long sweeps, you know? And that slowly goes back into my breakdown. And that's how I created the drop that I showed you in the short from a while ago. So hope this inspires you. Hope you learned something, and stay creative. Peace, guys.